So, greetings and good morning, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I am Rivka of Shushan. I am in the barony of Tarnmist currently, which sits on the very southern border of the West. We are all that stands between the West and Kaid. Previously, I lived on the very edge of the border between Kaid and the West. And before that, Aidenvelt and Kaid. So somehow throughout my adult SCA years, I've ended up on the borders everywhere. So yesterday, Lash Kensai gave a class on fringe players. Today, this is kind of a class on fringe groups. So groups that not only are on the border of kingdoms, but also groups that are isolated within kingdoms. So those of us that kind of play sometimes within our bubble, but hopefully looking at ways to broaden that and step outside of that. So if you have a question, want to add anything, please do raise your hand so that Shimon can see you. It might be a long hour if you just have to listen to me the whole time. So the first topic I had was distance kills or ending isolation. When we're in these border areas, when we're in these areas that are isolated, like within the West, not only do we have Tarnmist, that our closest neighbors to the south are Kaid and almost an hour away. Our closest neighbors to the north, Darkwood, and that's a good 3-hour drive. We have to the north, Alicia kind of sits in its own little area and is pretty far spaced from everyone around them. Within other kingdoms, I know there's areas that the same thing kind of happens. So when you're separated, there's that tendency to become a little insular. We're so used to playing in our own area with our own group. We know all these people, it's comfortable. So what are ways that we can encourage members to step outside that, to make that extra 2-hour drive to go play with neighbors, to check out an event? Right now, we kind of have a decided advantage because we can post Zoom links. Here, look, there's a Zoom thing. Oh, sorry. There's a Zoom thing you can go to. And that helps a lot because it doesn't matter where you are. There isn't the travel time, the distance, the where am I going to set up camp, because it's just from the comfort of our own homes and on our own computers. But eventually, we hope to be able to meet again. People would be nice. So one of the things that we frequently have done that I find helps is carpooling. When you have, 3 people going to an event, see if you can arrange a carpool for them. Who can we put together? Something that makes that more fun. Who are my drivers? Can we arrange as we stop for gas or snacks or to kind of round robin the seating and mix up people within even the barony or the shire that may not talk to each other as often? Because when you've got a 4 or 5 hour car drive, it's a great opportunity to get to know each other. Who has a talent that they've never shared? Who has, funny stories that you've never heard before until you're stuck in a car with them for 2.5 hours? The other thing is making the kingdom calendars, the other groups' activities visible. Make sure that people in your area know this is coming up, this is what's offered. The more we see things, the more it's in our line of sight, the more likely we are to take an interest. Hey, there's this thing, and I've never been to this thing, but suddenly everybody on the Facebook page or the chat group in the newsletter is talking about it. Well, now this just became more interesting because it's in my sight. It's presented to me, it's in my field of vision. Maybe time to check it out. Another thing that helps with ending isolation is once you've made that 4 to 6 hour drive, nobody wants to show up at the event and be in Sleepy Hollow by themselves. We just got here and now we've all scattered and I know nobody here. Group camping can help with that if you're able to set up, this is our baronies camping, or this is our shires camping, or this is our household camping. But at the very least, talk to people. Make sure everybody knows where everyone else is camping. Hey, they're over with Black Company. Hey, they're with the Archers. Oh, I know that household is actually camping with the Royals. Oh, they're with another household from another kingdom. But kind of have an idea where everybody's going to be, where you can go visit. That way, as you're doing this, you're not sitting at this event in Sleepy Hollow. Well, great, I'm here. Now what? I'm stuck here by myself instead of in my home area by myself, because there's nothing that can sour someone on traveling faster than arriving and being lost. It's my first time at Australia. I've never done this before. I drove up here with somebody and now they've completely abandoned me. Not fun. Not going to encourage people to try that again, because all they'll remember is that feeling of being lost. So we definitely want to have support getting up there, have support when they get there, know where they can find some kind of leadership from the group, know where they're meeting up. Maybe have a Saturday night, hey, we're all going to join for an hour, check in with each other, find out who's doing well, who might need help figuring out how they run their crazy schedule or whatever's going on there. But be with your people. Let them know that you're available. Make sure that they know, they're welcome to interject or add activities or whatever they're going to do. That way, we're not lost. We have a plan to get there. We know where we're going. We have a plan once we get there. It really makes it easier to burst out of that bubble. It's a safety net, so we're not just on the trapeze in this new place on our own. Anyone have anything to add, or Asa?
Hi, I'm Asa Torvaldsdottir. I started playing in the Barony of Alicia, which is in the northern marches of the West Kingdom. It's another one of the isolated groups. There are a couple of nearby groups, but it's all, our nearest neighbors are all over an hour away. I'm no longer physically there, but very much my heart is still Alician. And when I started playing in the Barony of Alicia, I was part of the college group up there. And one of the things that was incredibly helpful, in addition to the college helping to arrange for rides for everybody and camping with the Barony, was doing a group food plan. If that is something that you have someone who can spearhead, something that, people can chip into, it, and it's generally a lot cheaper to do a food plan for a group than it is for everybody to do their individual food. And it can really make what would have been out of reach for someone who, the travel plus the food plus, everything would be too much for them to handle. Helping them get a ride and helping them get fed is huge.
Absolutely.
May I share something?
Yes.
So I'm Seamus, and I'm from Rivenoak, which is not as far away as Tarnmist or Alicia from like everywhere else, but it's not necessarily like in the core center of everything either, right? And so kind of to touch upon the idea of the food plan, for a while we had like a little food plan, and that was something that was helpful just in general for people who are newer to want to come and be a part of things. And it also kind of acted as a almost like an internal SCA promotional thing where you got people that are not even part of your barony or your shire or whatever, but they're coming in like getting to meet you and check you out on site, which is a good way for new people to get to meet people, or even people have been around for a while to meet people too. So I thought I wanted to echo that that's if you could pull it off, is a really cool idea.
Awesome.
Yeah, more on the benefits of doing a food plan if that is something that you're able to organize, which I highly recommend. It also promotes community. Like the sharing of food is an incredibly powerful community building tool, especially if you're all able to, say, have breakfast and have dinner together. Everybody knows, you make sure that everybody knows when and where breakfast is served, when and where dinner is served, and where they can get what they need for lunch. Lunch tends to be more, you know, loose because people are out doing things, but still knowing, the time period and where lunch can be found it's really good. And like I said, the community building aspect of sharing food together, it gives you time to like really get to know each other in the same sort of way as carpooling together does, but with the additional, I mean, sharing food is just an inherently community building sort of thing.
Mhm. Absolutely. Also, a lot of times getting a tent is fairly easy. It's a tent, you buy it, you figure out how to set it up, you're good. Garb, there's hand me down, there's gold key, there's a million resources. You can go on Etsy and find a basic starter tunic and belt. Setting up kitchen, having all the camp stoves, the inkle dinkles necessary to cook without a proper kitchen can be a big challenge for newbies as well, for individual people. And if you're traveling just by yourself, a lot of times it kind of doesn't even seem worth it. I'm going to pull out all this stuff so that I can make myself some scrambled eggs in the morning. So together, yeah, it makes that seem like a lot more worthwhile thing to do and to pack and bring and scrub and plan and all the things that go with putting together a kitchen. So we've got our people, we've figured out how to get them involved, how to get them out of the barony and interacting with the kingdom and other kingdoms. So the next biggest thing that I've really seen as a challenge in isolated and remote groups is how do we bring people in? Because kind of like anyone who's seen Night at the Museum, the little Roman guy, we expand or we die. Well, in a lot of ways, the SCA is very much the same. If we're not bringing in new people and new blood, we're going to find that our groups just continue to shrink and shrink. And eventually, well, we may not have the people for this little isolated shire or this little isolated barony. So bringing in new people becomes even more of an important task, even more of a necessary thing to keep the group vibrant and alive and functioning. So we always have our meetings, and it's a great time, especially if you happen to meet at like a Denny's or somewhere like that. Obviously not during COVID, where you can invite someone, hey, come grab dinner with me, and oh, by the way, check out this super cool group. Everybody, every member should know that they are welcome to bring people in, should be encouraged to bring people in, because the more people locally, the more friends you have to play with, the more people to share positions and to grow the barony and to interact. You may find out that, this person had been interested in this for years and never knew how to contact or didn't want to just, get on a corporate site, wanted a face to put with this cool, crazy people in the garb that they had seen. Another thing with growing isolated groups is also, how do we fill the positions in these groups? Because while we're encouraging people to join us, we also have a lot of positions that newcomers may not be comfortable taking, or we may just not have enough people, period. And that's where looking at combining stuff can come in really handy. Like Gold Key and your shadowing, they kind of go hand in hand. And if the person who is shadowing is willing to hold that stuff, well, then it's kind of a one-stop shop for your newcomers. Meet this individual. This individual not only will introduce you to the rest of the group, but they'll clothe you too. And then you have both of those kind of handled and taken care of. You can look at, talk to your herald. Are they willing to also be your chronicler, since they're doing the court reports and, keeping track of who's who, names and titles? And would they also be willing to just keep kind of a running log? This was the event, the day, the time. Hey, my court report fits right into what awards were given. We're good to go. Encourage people's interest. Get to know your people. This I cannot stress enough, because in areas where you might be on your own, one of the greatest things is that moment of wow, when you discover just out of nowhere, this person plays the harp and I never knew that. And this person plays the recorder and we never knew that. And this person sings beautifully. And we'd have never known this except that they randomly pulled out instruments and started singing at an event or at a meeting. Keep an eye, talk to people. What's something that you enjoy that you haven't seen? Or what talent would you like to share? Is there something you're not sure fits in the SCA that we can maybe either make fit or tell you absolutely? If that's what you want to run with, run with. If your thing is pre-Columbian Kachina dolls, oh, absolutely. We can absolutely find a niche for that. If your thing is lamp work, well, I just, make blown glass baubles. Well, have you ever considered making blown glass baubles that can go on jewelry, or turning those blown glass baubles into blown glass oil lamps? Where can we take this? What do you have that we can celebrate, that we can help you expand, to expand not only your SCA experience, but to give this little group a wider pool to draw from? You never know what you might have, what's there, if you don't look for it, if you don't actively seek. Asa.
In terms of fostering interests that that you may be finding with your newcomers, if you are one of the people who's maybe been around longer and has contacts outside of the area, make use of those. If somebody comes in and they're like, yeah, I play the harp and I want to learn more about medieval harp, you can be like, hey, we know somebody, they're not here, but we can connect you with them to help learn about that. And it also helps strengthen ties. That sort of stuff helps strengthen ties between the more remote group and the wider SCA. And it can help lessen that feeling of isolation when you have friends outside the area, or you can introduce people to other folks outside the area who share interests with them. And in terms of bringing newcomers in, never ever underestimate the power of the personal invitation. It's what got me in. Uh, almost 20 years ago. I'm still here because I got personally invited to my college group's meeting by one of the other members, and it stuck hard. And so, yeah, personal invitations are also super powerful.
Absolutely. Another thing with the personal invitations is don't be afraid to put your group out there, to invite everybody. You know, there's that old saying, the wider the net, the more fish you catch. One of these smaller groups that I lived in for quite a while kept encouraging them, hey, let's do a meet and greet at the local library. Let's participate in the local city activities day in the park. And time and time again, the answer that would come back is, well, we don't know what kind of people might be interested. And it absolutely made me cringe every time, because that's sort of the point. You don't know what kind of people might be interested, and you have no idea who you're missing, who could be this absolutely phenomenal asset and wonderful skadian and player and all around person, because you're not putting yourself out there. You're not giving the invitations. You're not providing the opportunities to be seen, to let people know, you know, raise your flag. Hey, we're here. You know, hey, y'all, look at us. We're doing this thing and we'd love for you to do this thing with us. So part of another facet of isolated or border groups is that we are our own bubbles. And the more isolated, the more independent the group, the more we tend to develop our own tradition, our own way of doing things. But that means the more likely we are to need to foster relations with the neighbors. Why? Because if we are trying to find peers outside of our group, well, if I'm seneschal for little bitty group A, and I have no idea who the seneschal or baron or baroness or any of the leadership is for my next closest neighbors, it's going to be a lot harder to help my people find peers, to help my people engage with the kingdom at large. It's going to be a lot harder for them to find us. So you always want to be aware who's around you. Who's their seneschal? Who's their chatelaine? Do they have a sitting baron, baroness? Who are those people? Heck, who's their herald? Heralds are pretty good for knowing who's in the group, and you know, we tend to absorb information about people. Well, their heraldry is this, and their name is this, and their persona is here, and what else did you want to know? I think their blood type's somewhere here. But yeah, get to know those around you. It can really help, and not just in your kingdom. Again, if you're sitting on the border, get to know the group that's immediately across the border from you, because there's a lot of inter-kingdom exchange on the smaller border baronies, shires, smaller areas. It may be that for your people to get out of their area, it's easier to go a half hour and play in a different kingdom. So again, their introductions can be critical. What do we know about this person? What can we share with them? What can they share with us, so that we have good relations here, so that we feel comfortable playing back and forth? And that's good for the kingdoms as well, because then when kingdom issues arise, well, I know so-and-so over here, or so-and-so over here already knows these people from my group. So it's just that much easier. We're not shooting in the wind for somebody that happens to live there or be from this area. We already know. Along with that, of course, is again, invite, invite, invite. They're a half hour away. And even though they're from Kingdom X and we're Kingdom Y, invite them over. Make them feel welcome. Make them feel like they want to join us. They want to be here because both groups will benefit. It adds more fun, more diversity to your group. And in exchange, hopefully you can do the same for theirs. So let them know when your stuff's going on. Find out when they're doing stuff. If at all possible, try not to schedule over top of each other. We look at our own kingdom calendar, but when you're on the fringes, it's really worth it to look at theirs as well. Because if they've got that same option of going to something 4 hours away or coming to visit you, there's a good chance they might come visit where you are. But if they're trying to do something and you schedule something that same weekend, you're both going to lose out because neither one of you is going to be able to visit. So they may not get as many people from as far away. You may not get as many people, and you certainly can't play together because you're on top of each other now. So just kind of being aware, being considerate, even though they're not my kingdom, they are still my neighbor because we are still all Scadians, regardless of where we play. So with playing across borders comes cross-kingdom anthropology. This happens to be a topic I kind of like, but that's because I've lived multiple places and it's always interesting when you move to see how things change. Here in the West, we're pretty easy. Like the first Westy event, what should I not wear? What's the sumptuary? Oh, we don't have any. Okay, I'm good with that. But other places, if you show up in a purple cape, somebody might look at you a little funny. Other places, have you can wear a headpiece, but it can't have gold or silver. It can't be out of a metal. Just knowing those little inkle dinkle things. Because while people aren't likely to get upset, and if you just let them know, hey, I'm sorry, I'm out of town, most people will be pretty cool. But if you can show up and already know that and already have that knowledge so that you can just fit right in and there aren't kind of those awkward moments, it can be really helpful and really nice and make the experience better overall because we're just seamlessly hopping right in, joining with these other players and having fun, doing our thing. So, does anyone have any specific questions or ideas, anything, for your area that you were kind of wondering about or hoping to roundtable, get advice, opinions? Yes, that is a very good point. Somebody put up 1 second, I see you. Somebody put up that sumptuary laws are often different from traditions. And yes, that is also a very good thing to know of. Even though it's not written in stone, it's not part of kingdom law, it still might be a traditional thing. For instance, the first time I went up to Darkwood, instead of saying huzzah, they said Carrick Doom. And I kind of looked around me like, what? What is this thing? I've never heard this before. Well, that is their traditional cry as they salute their royalty and the royalty of the kingdom. And okay, cool. Now I know this. Let's see. Astrid, absolutely. Welcoming visitors. That's a key thing no matter what. Nobody is going to return somewhere they don't feel welcome. It's just that simple. If I don't feel like I'm having fun here, if I don't feel like people are reaching out, making an effort, nobody wants to be where they're not wanted. It's simple human nature. So if we make that effort to greet people, to introduce ourselves, to find out who they are, to maybe find out, what what are you looking for? Oh, you like Vikings? You should talk to so and so. Oh, you're interested in pottery. Well, I happen to know this amazing artisan. You should go check out her stuff, maybe talk to her, because creating those connections, making it a place that people want to be, a place that people want to return to. That is absolutely. Oh, Asa, I think you had your hand up a moment ago.
Oh, yes, I did. I had something. Oh, right. In terms of networking, coordinating, playing with your nearest neighbors, um, one of the really cool things up in the northern marches, there's the Barony of Alicia, and then there's the next further north group, which is right on the Ontier border, Woodhope Bissek. And there's a long standing tradition between Alicia and Woodhope Bissek that we play together. And there's actually a treaty in place that allows members of Woodhope Bissek to compete in the Lupercalia tournament to be baron to be the baronage of the barony of Alicia, even though they're not members of the barony. And there have been a number of really truly excellent barons and baronesses of Alicia who were from Woodholt Bissek. Um, I let's see, the Shire of Ravenshaw is south of Alicia, and has recently been seeing a resurgence. And so Alicia's been reaching out to them and pulling them in. And so there's a lot of up and down the coast, everybody playing together, coordinating together. And it's really good to see. And it was really nice when I was up there to know who our neighbors were. There's also, since I moved out of the area, there's been a lot more cross-border with, I think it's the Shire of Timberhaven in southern Ontario, right on the border with Woodholt Bissek. And there's some really awesome people up there. So yeah, when you reach out and make connections with your neighbors, including across kingdom borders, it's really good. And like you can see that happening in various border groups. And I just wanted to offer that specific example and also the cool tidbit about the Woodhull Bissek Alicia treaty.
Yeah, but I know on multiple occasions the Mists have invited Tarmist up for coronets. And while we're not members of the Mist, since they are our closest principality, it's nice to go up there with their invitation and feel invited and welcomed. And here in Tarnmist, for many years, we had our protectorate tourney because we also had a canton just to the south of us that was part of the barony. And every other year, we would open that up so that anybody could be the Lord Protector. And we had not only from the west, but several times we had protectors from down in Cayenne that would come up and participate and win the baldricks. And then they were guaranteed to kind of come play with us for the next year. And they would bring friends from down south. And yeah, the more you go back and forth, the more people you bring in. And it just makes nicer. Bigger is always more fun. It's part of the reason we like to go to things like Great Western and Australia and West Ontario, Penzic. It's just to have that feeling of these are players from all over. This is not just my kingdom, my corner of the SCA. This is the world of SCA. Okay, so I am being reminded that it is 10:40. We've got about 5-10 minutes before I'm supposed to wrap up, so all you lovely people can get to your next class. So did we have any other comments, questions? Lady Rue, yes.
One thing, kind of doubling back to saying, when you were talking about telling people, oh, well, so and so can help you with hats, for example, go talk to so and so. I have found as a newcomer, and now been here a few more years, that that wasn't helpful because I didn't know who so and so was, and being slightly introvert, I'm not going to just go over and go, "Hi, I'm so and so, and I know you make hats." That was not helpful to me. But I found there were some really awesome people that knew this and would go, "So and so makes hats. Let me walk you to them and introduce you and start a conversation. Hi, so and so. This is Lady Rue. She's very interested in hats. She's a newcomer. Would you do you have some time to talk to her now, or is there time later you guys can discuss hats?" And that opened the door to so many offices. And I'm in a little area in Livermore, which is considered off into another shire that I don't really play with, but that's an hour away, and then another barony, which is another hour away, and another between two principalities, also hours away. So little pocket. So that introduction helped because then I got to know people from all these other areas that I could reach out to and feel included into the bigger kingdom, which is super helpful. So introductions, 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 introductions.
Yeah, again, not just leaving people hanging. Here, go, be free, figure it out. We definitely want to include. Nest.
Hi. One of the things that we also did to help with the introductions is we got wooden laser engraved name tags with like people's office positions. And we got some that are just ask me that we pass out to like the Shadowlands and a team of people who are willing to take questions from the populace, especially when we're doing a demo. So that we can go, oh, this is so and so, they are this position, or we can direct them if they have questions on something. Well, we need to go talk to the night marshal, and we can go over and find the person that's got that tag on. So it helps them out a lot. They can see, they have a visual reminder, as well as being able to talk to someone. We found that that seems to help a lot as well.
That is a fantastic idea. Like, yeah, I know I'm terrible with faces. You could introduce me 5 times and I will probably forget which name goes with which face. So that really is great because then you don't have to try and remember who that person was that you were introduced to 15 minutes ago.
Right. And some of us have just have personal name tags with our actual SCA name on them. And some of them we just did ones for the officer positions as well, because those change. So we've got the officer positions, and some people opted to pay out of their own pockets to get ones with their name on it. So mine actually has my title on it, with Baroness. So it just works out really well in that regard, that they have the visual cues as well to help them remember who they're talking to or what position they're talking to, so they can start to make those connections, and it doesn't seem quite as scary. And if for some reason we're not able to leave what we're doing to take them to somebody, oh, so and so over there wearing such and such a thing, he's going to have a name tag that says X position on it. He's going to have a tag that says X checker on it, or whatever. It gives them more reference as to who they're going to go find, and just say, hey, let him know that you're new, that you wanted to talk to him about such and such, and that Nest sent him. And for a lot of people that seems to work, but again, obviously, taking and introducing them, taking them over is always your best option. Sometimes it's not always practical if you're in the middle of something like line marshaling or marshaling a fight. So it's not always exactly practical, but it gives us other options too for helping direct people.
Yeah, again, very awesome idea. Thank you for sharing that with us. Asa.
Much on the same line, and when you're at a larger event, in terms of making sure that people get introduced to each other, if you have officers, I mean, of course you're going to have officers, you're a group, but if your officers are there, you can take your group officers and introduce them to their superiors, like their kingdom, the kingdom officer that they report to, so that they can then have, you know, the face to go with the person at the other end of usually an email. It helps foster that connection, and there was somewhere else I was going with this. I don't remember. Okay. But yeah, introduce your officers to their superiors whenever you have the chance, because it helps connect and build that web that keeps the more remote groups still attached to the kingdom that they're part of.
Yeah.
It's also super helpful for your officers, and can make things easier for them. I mean, it can be an opportunity to just talk with your superior officer. Like, let's say you've got the exchequer for your group, and you introduce them to the kingdom exchequer, and they can like talk about exchequery things and also just get to know each other as people, and you know, take care of questions, anything like that, without having to, you know, remember to respond to an email, which I know I am absolutely terrible at.
Yeah, absolutely. It also is helpful. You don't want your first meeting with somebody to be because there's a problem. It's much easier. If I already know who the Vesper Herald is, I'm a lot more likely to be comfortable going to them when I have to say, hey, I'm out of my league here. I need some help. Versus if this is a complete stranger, okay, well, I don't really want to talk to them because they don't know. And so, comfort, familiarity, absolutely a wonderful thing to try and establish.
As Lash has commented about, every group has weaponized extroverts. Use them. They are so useful to get people connected and out talking.
All right. Well, we are 15 minutes from the hour, so you are welcome to hang out. I don't think our facilitator has another class to get to, so we're good to chat here. You're welcome to join the lobby. I know there are more classes coming up. Thank you very much for attending. I greatly appreciate it. And I hope that you guys have found some helpful tips, tricks, things that you can take back to use in your own areas. Have a wonderful morning and a wonderful day.